Okay, so Jason Blade sent me a replay. He wanted me to review it, and so I already looked at it, and there are some very specific things I want to talk about in this video, and I think they could be very interesting to a lot of players. Okay, so we're gonna follow Jason Blade, and we're just gonna speed up through the initial minute because nothing happens. But basically, both players they macro up to 8 farms, so very standard play. So now you go your 8 farms, you go scout, making sure nothing cheeky happens, and then go back home. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to analyze the initial couple of moves that Jason Blaze does in this game, because I think they're very interesting. So let's start. The first thing Jason Blade does, he puts down a tier 1 Warren. Then he goes to scout his opponent. He scouted, so he saw a building mill and a building Warren. And judging by the time, basically Melvin Food had just put down his tier 1 Warren, and the mill was already building. So that tells us that Melvin Fruit went for a second mill first and then put down his tier 1 Warren. So right there and there, you know that Melvin Fruit's opening is very economic based, and he wants to macro up to 16 farm. Knowing Melvin Fruit, that's no surprise, but even against another player, that's still valuable information. You know that your opponent wants to go to late game comp with tier 3, with a sort of death ball comp. So far so good. Now let's continue. Jason Blade puts down a tier 1 Warren, steals it. He puts down a tier 2 Warren, and then he goes for another scout. He sees a queued farm and a tier 2 Warren. Now, one thing to note is that this tier 2 Warren from Melvin Fro is a reactionary Warren, because Jason Blade put down his tier 2 Warren right in front of Melvin Fro. So Melvin Fro, as a reaction, he tried to equalize on the technology by putting down his own tier 2. And you see that it is snakes. So he's expecting probably skunks. He wants to maybe cams. Snakes are good against both of these aggressive tier 2 openers. So basically, he wants to stay defensive, but that's a reactionary. That's not... If Melvin Fro did not scout a tier 2 Warren, he would have put down maybe another tier 1 Warren and just put down more farms on his expansion. He would not have gone this way. So let's continue here. So you borrow back home, and then what you do is basically buy a mill. Now, I really don't like this series of moves from you, Jason Blade. The reason why I don't like this series of moves is because it shows a sort of lack of some undecisiveness from your play. Your play are undecisive. It seems like you don't really know what you want to do in this game. So, okay. Let me first state that your mill has not even started, while your opponent's mill is finished building, plus has a farm with, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds built already. So you are already so significantly behind on economy. without ever fighting. You have lost 40 food, or rather you're 40 food behind already without ever fighting. And the reason why you're behind is because of the tier 2 warn you decided to put down. And the tier 2 warn you decided to put down was a aggressive move. So basically you scout a very economic based opener, you go back home, you put down this tier 2 warn, which is very aggressive, because in relationship to what Melvin Fro is doing, you're giving up on economy and rather investing in army and technology. And then you decide to go for a second mill and farm up. So that, like, how can I say this? Like, basically you're having an aggressive macro without being aggressive behind it. And that just means you're getting behind in eco as a result. So let's continue. And you're making other key mistakes in this game. So let's follow your commander around. Decided to put down two farms. That's, you know, you should start farm up at this point. That's a good thing. You go scout Melvin Fro, and now that's pretty good for you, because Melvin Fro could have 4 farms right now on his expansion. He only has 2 because he was scared. He was scared of being attacked. Because everything you did screamed, I'm going to attack you. I'm purposefully letting myself fall behind in economy just because I want to army spike and I want to attack you. And so Melvin Fro prepared for that. But you're not even trying to be aggressive in this game. You just fell behind on your own. And so now you go back home. Okay. Here's another thing. Now, you should assume that when you are going to go back here, there are gonna be at least 3 extra farms on this expansion. You should assume that. The reason why is because Melvin Fro has shown that he wanted to be economic. He wanted to go to 16 farms. So he's gonna get every opportunity he has to farm up, and right now you have no window of attack. You don't have an army advantage right now. You have equal food in terms of warn and army. So Melvin Fro is just gonna farm up at this point, and so as an anticipation to that, you should also put down extra farms and try to go to 16 farms if you don't want to fall behind in economy. But what do? Well, not much actually. I think you just go back to scout. Yeah. So right now, you should have 1 farm building and another farm queued right now. Like that should be it. Instead, you just don't spend your food and go back to scouting. And exactly as I said, there are 3 extra farms, and you probably should assume, even though you're not gonna scout anymore, you should probably assume that there's at least 1 farm here or more, because basically these farms are not typically the first farms you're gonna farm up, because they're front farms. So, you know, typically you're gonna see these farms being bought first. And so you see that your first thing you should do when you come back home is to spawn on this mill and use your entire bank on getting new farms, because you're just behind. And so let's see. Do you do that? You spawn, you build another tier 2 warn. And I don't know the reason why. You're not planning on having an aggressive timing push with your cams. You're not... Melvin Fro has shown no sign of aggression yet. You are both equal on warns right now. And you're severely behind on farms. You should spend all your money trying to get back on track in terms of economy, because you're just behind right now. You're so much behind. And you don't even equalize the number of farms you've saw. You don't even equalize. And then you go back to build mines, but you're not being attacked right now. You're not in danger. You're even ahead in army. Why are you putting down some mines? That's just food you're wasting on the boards for no reason. And, you know, with no surprise, Melvin Fro has already fully saturated his mill, while yours is already half saturated. Because you chose to do some aggressive macro moves. You know, putting down tier 2 warns while your opponent is ecoing up is aggressive, because it's always in relationship to what your opponent's doing. If you scout your opponent and he has a tier 2 warn and you decide to put your own tier 2 warn, that's a defensive and reactive move, but that's not aggressive, because in relationship to what your opponent is doing, in the context, it's not aggressive, because you're just equalizing on technology. If you see your opponent build a tier 2 warn and you decide to go build a mill and farm up on this mill, then that's a greedy move, because in relationship to what your opponent is doing, you're having more economy, but you're having less army. So at this point, you're already you haven't lost the game yet, but let's say I'm in your situation. I could tap out. I would tap out probably, or just like try to go for a one desperation push, and I would tap out, because you're behind enough that Melvin Fro knows how to win this game 100%. Like, he has the tools to... He's good enough to basically win the game in 95% of situations. Like, 95% of cases. So, like, you're just that behind already without ever fighting, just because of your poor macro. And you... Okay, that's another interesting thing. Okay, never mind. You don't have enough food. But even then, you don't have enough food to fully saturate. You should just stay here and wait for your last... to have enough food to queue another farm up. Because you can't just let yourself fall behind on economy. You're just losing value like that for free. And you're not even being aggressive as, you know, as compensation. And now, you start building more army. You build a boar warn. You decide to go for an expansion. That's like, at this point, you have lost enough. Like, let's calculate actually. Let's calculate. So, basically, like, this is around, say, 20 food. This is probably like something like, I don't know, like 4 food. This is another 20 food. This is another 20 food. This is like 45 food. This is 40 food. This is like something like 15 food, and this is another 45 food. So I'm not gonna bother calculate all like the addition of all that, but it's gonna show on the screen, and like I already know that this number isn't enough for you to lose the game. And keep in mind that this game, not a single shot has been fired in this game. Not a single unit has died. Not a single unit has dealt damage to another unit. So you just lost to poor macro. And now you're just so behind. Like, for now, you're ahead in army. But you're gonna see the graph just shift towards Melvin Fro. Because he has 2 tier 3 building. He has so much tier 2 building. And you're gonna see Melvin Fro slowly build up and just grow so much higher than Jason Blade right now. You can speed up the game. You see the graph disparity? Do you see the graph disparity? Like, that's easily 200 food. Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you exactly what you should have done in this game. And first of all, what I'm going to give you is a game plan. So I feel like the way you played this game, you didn't really know what to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a game plan. So your game plan here is to go to 16 farm and then build a boar push. That's your game plan. So every move that you do is working towards this plan, towards building up to 16 farms, towards getting a boar up, towards getting your push up. So let's start. So like the Warren plus scouting, I like this move. I think it's good. It's more safe than going from the mill first. So, you know, it's pretty good. I really don't mind it. So now you see this, right? And in your mind, it should be perfect. My opponent wants to expand, and I will also want to expand, because remember, you want to build to 16 farms, right? So what you do, as soon as you see this, you borrow home and you put your own expansion. You have enough food to put down an expansion, you put down your own expansion, and then after that you can go to scout, or you can just wait for your expand to finish and put down some farms. But going for a scout after having your expansion is usually the better move, because you also you just want to confirm that your opponent doesn't do any cheeky stuff. So the more you scout, the better, instead of putting down a tier 2 Warren like you did. Because really, all that tier 2 Warren did is slow down your expansion and your farm by a lot. So, and then okay, here's the thing. Now we are in this alternative scenario where instead of putting down a tier 2, you build an expansion, and maybe you have a farm, but probably you go for a scout, and when this is finished building, you burrow home and you put down your farms. So in this alternative scenario where you decided to go for an expansion, this tier 2 Warren doesn't exist. Melvin Fro probably has either like 2 farms and a second Warren, or like 3 or 4 farms if he wants to go extra greedy. So what your goal here is to match what Melvin Fro is doing. So let's say you scout here, you see 2 warns, you go for 2 warns in your base, and you put all the rest of your bank, you put it in farms, because that way you will not fall behind on economy. Your economy will grow as fast as Melvin Fro's economy will grow, and you do that until you get to 16 farms. So you go check Melvin's base. I mean, you check how much warn he has, you match the amount of warn, and then you put the rest in your expansion until you have 16 farms. And once you hit 16 farms, you can put down a boar warn, and then you can start put down all of your, tier 2. So you can put down falcons, scams, more pigeons. You can start really grow your army. So that's basically it. That's in a nutshell what you should have done in this game instead of going for a early tier 2. Okay, so that's pretty much it for me today. So I hope you found that useful, Jason Blade. Let me know if you have any questions about anything I said in this video, and yeah, see you around. Bye bye.